won the state cross-country title as a senior. He was named the 2014 Texas Gatorade Boys Cross Country Runner of the Year, later a three-time All-American at Furman. He is the 2020 USA Track and Field 15K National Champion, and in October of 21 lowered his half marathon personal best by almost a minute. He ran 1:01 flat in Valencia. Welcome one of Houston's own, Frank Lara. At this point, we invite questions from the media. We tell everyone we do have interpreters, so fire away with questions for members of the elite field in the men's marathon.
Frank, how's your training going, and training in Texas versus training anywhere else in the United States, especially as far as high altitude training?
I now live in Denver, and it's very different from what I did when I was in high school. I mean, we would have 3 camp practices in the heat of the summer here, and it was so hot, and like now being in Denver is kind of just like, it's a lot nicer in the weather, but it's awesome to be in Houston, like in the summers, in the mornings, and I'm super happy to be here. And like, people always say like the altitude or the humidity training that I've done all through my life kind of like sticks with you, and that's a nice thing to like have in the back of my mind going into this race, so I'm very excited about that.
Alex has a microphone for you now.
What does it feel like to be returning to Houston for your first marathon? And I'm assuming this was not coincidental. You probably were pointing for the race this year. And realistically, what do you think you can run Sunday? I think you have a shot at breaking the American record here. Is that on your mind?
That's a big question. I mean, when I watched the Houston Marathon when the Olympic trials were here, I remember sitting like. And I was in high school, it was like, that is so cool that people can do that, like, in my hometown. Like, it was kind of always a dream to run a marathon here. I didn't plan it to be my first one, but I ran the half marathon 2 years ago, and that was such an awesome experience to run through the streets that I grew up on, and like, to not be able to do that last year was kind of like a challenge, but I'm so happy that I get to be part of this awesome field. Since this is my first marathon, it's really hard to say like what kind of time to expect, and like what with the weather, you never really know what's going to happen. I just want to compete, and I think regardless of the time, I think if I compete well, I'll be really happy with what happens on the day.
How is training going for you, and going from training in Japan versus training anywhere else?
ここまでの練習は結構順調に来たので、初海外マラソンということで、どれだけ自分の力を試せるか全力で頑張りたいと思います。
Training's been very good. Everything's gone completely according to schedule, so I'm feeling fairly confident. On the other hand, it's my first time outside Japan, period, for a race, and that always brings some variables. So I'm really curious to see how it's going to go, being overseas versus having good training behind me.
For Kenta, what made you choose Houston as your first race outside of Japan?
非常に歴史のある大会で、この大会だったら自分のベストが出せるかなと思っていたので、それで招待していただいたので、出ることを決めました。
I'm aware of the Chevron Houston Marathon as a race with a long history, and so I want to be part of that history. And looking at the results that have happened here over the years, I felt like this is a race where I would have a good chance to run a PB. And when I was invited, I was very happy to accept.
For Calculate, you ran 2:08:36 here in 2020 and were on course record pace for quite a while. What did you learn from last year's race that might help you run even faster this year?
From last year, I learned so many things. The weather was very cold last year. Maybe if it's a little bit better this year, I'm ready, to have a new record.
Back to you, Frank. Could you fill us in a little bit on your evolution as a runner? And I know you were born in Mexico. How old were you when you came to Houston? And obviously you ended up at Strike and had a great career there. But just kind of talk about the progression all the way through Furman, if you can.
Yeah, I grew up was born in Mexico City, and I moved to the States, to Houston, when I was 5, and spent most of my life here. Went to Straight Jesuit and kind of fell in love with running there. It's good, and under Coach Mike Curley-Sulich, and I wouldn't be where I am without him. But from there, I went to Furman University in Greenville, South Carolina, kept improving, and since graduating, I think I've improved a lot since then, and with moving to Boulder, Colorado, and joining the Roots Running Project, and it's been an awesome ride to kind of come full circle and be ready for this race. So I'm really excited.
And one final question for Frank. Why did you choose Houston for your debut, and are you expecting many friends and family out here on the course in Houston?
I chose Houston because it's home. A few weeks ago, I had a layover that had in Houston that got delayed, and unfortunately, it was like, what am I gonna do? And I was like, wait, my mom's here, my whole family's here. I was like, why am I freaking out about this place? Got a nice surprise stay in Houston, and at that point, I already decided to run the marathon. But my first run, my run that I did while I was here was around Memorial Park, naturally. And it was so cool to see how much everything's changed, and now the loop's actually 3 miles. Before it was just under, which is really satisfying to see on the watch. Yeah, and then when I saw the story about how we're gonna get to go under the land bridge, I was like, this is so cool. Every single thing I've heard about this marathon has just gotten so exciting for me, because it's just this is home, and that's why I'm doing it. It's home.
We're gonna wrap that up with our men's elite field. One more question. Go right ahead.
Yeah, well, Mr. Ishida, how do you plan to do these strategies or anything special to compete with the African runners? And would that hurt you as far as your pace and your race itself?
10キロまで全力でやって、あとは流れに任せます。
I think the race is gonna really just get started after 30K, as it often does. So just bide my time until then, and then go with the flow after 30K.
All right, men, thank you very much, and welcome to Houston.